The news this morning, it's really brought a hush across the globe, hasn't it?
It really has. Pope Francis passed away earlier today, Easter Monday, April 21st, 2025.
7:35 a.m., yeah. 88 years old.
hmm
It feels like a moment for the whole world to pause.
Definitely. And reflect, 12 years as Pope, a papacy that, well, it undeniably left a huge mark.
Right. So that's what this deep dive is about, yeah. Trying to get to the heart of it all.
Exactly. His journey, understanding the key parts of his life, his time leading the church, and, what his lasting legacy might actually be. We want to give everyone a clear picture why this news resonates so profoundly.
Okay, let's start at the beginning then. Jorge Mario Bergoglio, born in Buenos Aires, Argentina, back in 1936. What jumps out at you from his early life? Maybe some clues about the pope he'd become.
Well, what's fascinating, I think, is even way before he was this global figure,
Yeah.
his life had this real groundedness.
Son of Italian immigrants. Right?
Yeah, exactly. And he actually trained as a chemist first, worked as one.
Oh, I didn't know that. A chemist.
Yeah. And you wonder, maybe that scientific background gave him a sort of methodical way of thinking, an appreciation for evidence. Perhaps that influenced how he tackled complex issues later on.
Interesting point. And then he joined the Jesuits.
Right. The Society of Jesus.
Ooh.
Known for, intellectual rigor, but also a big commitment to social justice. That was clearly formative.
Even as he rose up Archbishop of Buenos Aires 98, Cardinal 01,
Yes.
he kept that simplicity.
He really did. It seems striking. Taking public transport, living in just a modest apartment, it doesn't sound like it was just for show. It seems like it was just who he was.
That image of him on the bus, it definitely sticks with you. So different from the usual picture.
It really does. And it contrasts so sharply, doesn't it? Were there specific stories about that? Things that sort of cemented that image for people?
Oh, loads of anecdotes. Cooking his own meals, apparently calling people who wrote letters to him personally. Small things, but
Yeah.
yeah. And that simplicity, it just exploded onto the world stage in 2013 with his election.
Huge moment.
The first Jesuit pope, first from the Americas, first from the global south. I mean, that alone was massive.
Absolutely seismic. And then the name he chose. Francis.
Yeah, that wasn't just picking a name out of a hat, was it?
Not at all. Invoking St. Francis of Assisi. That was incredibly deliberate. It immediately signaled, okay, these are my priorities. Humility, a deep concern for the poor, and taking care of creation.
And that first moment on the balcony?
Unforgettable, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Instead of some grand pronouncement, he just asked the crowd to pray for him.
Yeah.
It felt so warm, so authentic. It really set the tone for everything that followed.
It certainly struck a chord. Maybe some traditionalists weren't sure what to make of it, seeing it as maybe breaking with papal norms.
Perhaps a few, yes. But I think overwhelmingly, the reaction was just this huge wave of goodwill.
And that tone you mentioned, you've called his papacy a revolution of tenderness. That really captures something essential about his approach, doesn't it?
It does, I think. It felt like he genuinely wanted to shift the church's focus back to, well, basic human compassion. His vision was the church as a field hospital.
A field hospital.
Yeah, a place for healing, for tending to wounds, not primarily about judgment or laying down the law.
And that wasn't just talk, was it? You saw it in his actions.
Exactly. It wasn't just rhetoric. His focus consistently was on those people on the edges for hands. The poor, the refugees, the forgotten.
Washing the feet of prisoners.
Right. The symbolic power of that. Or embracing refugees, going to places torn apart by war. These actions really showed what that revolution of tenderness meant in practice.
And talking about conflict, his focus on peace was just relentless, always pushing for dialogue even when things looked hopeless.
Absolutely relentless. He saw the devastation caused by division.
Yep.
And that image from 2019, unforgettable.
Kneeling down.
Kneeling to kiss the feet of the leaders from South Sudan, literally pleading with them to stop their civil war. It was just raw, visceral, so powerful.
And it makes his final message, just yesterday on Easter Sunday, even more poignant. That call for peace.
Stop colonizing people with weapons. What a line.
Yeah.
And delivering that Urbi et Orbi blessing, to the city and the world, even doing it from a wheelchair. His focus was still laser sharp on that global need for peace.
And alongside peace, there was his other major theme, the environment. That 2015 encyclical, Laudato Si'. For listeners, maybe not everyone knows, an encyclical is basically a major letter from the Pope tackling big issues. And Laudato Si'.
Wow, that really changed the conversation globally, didn't it?
It absolutely did. What was so powerful was how he framed it. Not just science or politics, but a deeply moral issue, a spiritual one.
calling the earth a sister crying out in pain.
Exactly, that kind of language, urging us to completely rethink our relationship with nature. It resonated way beyond just the Catholic Church. It was seen as this major challenge to world leaders to prioritize the planet.
And he connected it to social justice too, didn't he? The cry of the earth and the cry of the poor. Precisely. That was key. It wasn't just about trees and animals. It was about how environmental damage disproportionately hurts the poor. It broadened the whole idea of environmental ethics.
And his follow-up document, Laudaum,
Just reinforced all of that.
Yeah.
Peace, justice, creation, they're all interconnected. His idea of integral human development, it's about valuing people, culture, nature, not just economic growth, a really different vision.
did Laudato Si' get much pushback, or was it mostly praised?
Well, environmental groups, many world leaders, they loved it. But yeah, some in industry, some conservative groups, they raised concerns about what it meant for the economy.
Which sort of leads us to the challenges he faced generally. He didn't exactly inherit an easy situation.
No, definitely not. It raises that big question, doesn't it? How do you reform such a massive, ancient institution?
Right. He walked into a church dealing with, well, the horrible legacy of scandal, lots of internal division.
Painful stuff. And his efforts trying to simplify the Vatican bureaucracy, trying to tackle clergy abuse more transparently, those were big steps, necessary steps.
But his more, let's say, progressive vision, that caused friction too.
Oh, absolutely. Things like more inclusion, the debate around blessings for same-sex couples, wanting more roles for women, even just softening the tone on issues that are usually really divisive.
That definitely got a reaction from more traditionalist wings of the church.
It inevitably did. There was pushback. But through it all, he seemed absolutely committed to dialogue and to mercy. That was always central for him.
Even in his last months, with his health clearly failing, he seemed driven by that pastoral instinct.
His health was a real worry, wasn't it? Especially after that bad bout of pneumonia earlier in the year.
Yeah.
So seeing him on Easter Sunday, that was, well, surprising and really quite moving.
He couldn't celebrate the Mass himself.
No, he delegated that. But he still did the tour in the Pope Mobile through St. Peter's Square. Just showing that connection with people was still vital to him.
And that last little gesture, meeting U.S. Vice President Vance, giving him chocolate eggs for his kids.
It's a small thing, isn't it? But it says so much. That enduring warmth, that focus on just human connection right to the end.
And then the announcement this morning from Cardinal Farrell, it really does feel like the end of an era. The reaction worldwide has been just immense.
Yeah, the announcement itself, that moment of deep sadness, then the formal verification of his death. That's all part of the tradition.
And apparently he chose to pass away at Casa Santa Marta.
Yes, his residence. He preferred that relative simplicity, didn't want to move to the Apostolic Palace. Even in death, that choice speaks volumes.
It does.
And the global reaction, you see the tributes from President Biden, President Macron, other world leaders, but also just the flood of personal stories online.
Ordinary people, Catholics, people of other faiths.
Exactly. It shows how deep that personal connection went for so many. Remember during the worst of the COVID pandemic, those daily mass broadcasts?
Oh, yeah, they were a huge comfort for millions.
They really solidified that bond, I think.
So what happens now? What's the process?
Okay, so now we enter a period that's really governed by centuries of tradition. First, the preparations for the funeral. By all accounts, he wanted it to be simple.
Reflecting his style.
Exactly. And interestingly, he asked to be buried not in the Vatican grottos with most other popes, but in Rome's Basilica of Santa Maria Maggiore.
Why there?
He had a special devotion to an icon of Mary there, visited it often. It shows his connection to Rome, the city too, not just the Vatican state.
Okay. And the funeral mass itself?
That'll be in St. Peter's Square. Expect huge crowds, leaders from all over the world, a major global event.
And after the funeral?
Then begins the sede vacante.
The vacancy.
Right, the period when there's no pope. The College of Cardinals takes over the administration of the Holy See following specific rules, and this whole period leads up to the conclave.
The election of the next pope. And this conclave feels, well, particularly important, doesn't it, given Francis appointed so many of the cardinals?
That's a really crucial point. Nearly 80%, almost 4/5 of the cardinals who will actually vote in the conclave were appointed by Francis.
Wow, 80%.
Yeah. So the body choosing his successor largely reflects his priorities. You know, the focus on pastoral care, social justice, maybe a more outward-looking church engaging with modern complexities.
So the task facing them is just huge.
Monumental. Choosing the next leader for over 1 billion Catholics worldwide, in a world facing, I mean, just immense challenges: climate change, war, inequality.
So does that mean it's likely they'll choose someone very similar to Francis? Or could there be a reaction, a swing back towards a more traditional figure?
That's the multi-billion-dollar question, isn't it?
Yep.
There are definitely different perspectives within the college. Some will want to continue firmly on Francis's path. Others might feel the church needs a period of consolidation, perhaps a more doctrinally focused leader. It's not monolithic, despite Francis appointing so many.
It's going to be fascinating to watch unfold. So as we sort of wrap up here, looking back over these 12 years, what stands out as his most enduring legacy, do you think?
Gosh, it's complex, but I think he'll absolutely be remembered as a pope of firsts. First Jesuit, first from the Americas, and someone who genuinely tried to bridge divides between tradition and, well, the need for progress.
A voice for the voiceless.
Undeniably. He consistently shone a light on the margins, on the plight of people often ignored, and his life itself. It felt like a testament to that core gospel message of unconditional love, of mercy.
You remember the images?
Mm.
His obvious joy sometimes?
Yeah. Hooking volunteers, driving that simple little Fiat. He just had this remarkable ability to connect with ordinary people. It felt genuine.
And even now in this moment of sadness, that final Easter message he gave, it was about hope, wasn't it?
The hope of the resurrection, that was central. So his spirit, I think, that spirit of mercy, that tireless work for peace, that urgent plea to care for creation, that's the legacy. That's what lives on.
A truly towering figure. His impact is going to be felt for a long, long time.
No doubt about it.
So as we finish this deep dive on Pope Francis, it's just so clear how profound his influence has been on the church, yes, but way beyond that too. And it really leaves you thinking, doesn't it? How will that call he made for mercy, for peace, for caring for our common home, how will that continue to shape things, not just inside the church, but, in our own lives, our own communities? What lasting impact will his revolution of tenderness really have?